to African Teapot Podcast. My name is Exie and I'm your host. Journey with me through Africa's vast variety of culture, heritage, and discuss issues most African families face, both home and abroad. Make sure you add this podcast to your frequent podcast rotations, and don't forget to share and follow this podcast. Hello listeners, and welcome back to another episode on African Teapot. Today is our very first episode of season 2, and I'm so excited to be back, and hopefully you guys are as well. I've missed you guys so much, and for those of you who kept in touch when we were on our little break, letting us know how your holiday went with your loved ones and family, thank you guys so much. It's good to know that I was part of your routine, maybe morning routine to work or weekend routine. You know, it was just good to know that I was part of your household, you listening to me. So you guys missing me, talking to you guys and bringing topics and stuff, that is really encouraging. And I would say the break made me realize that I'm not in this alone. You guys are listening and you're looking forward to see us grow. So thank you so much for those who reached out, and for those who didn't, it doesn't mean I'm not still appreciative, because I know you were taking a break just as we did. Right? So but I'm thankful that we are here, and I've missed you guys so much, and we can chit chat about what we love chit chatting about. I know that some of you did reach out, some of you did experience loss during the holiday, and I know it was still one of those holidays where we had COVID going on, and there was just a lot of hurt around the world, and it affected so many people. And holidays are supposed to bring in a lot of cheer, but to associate that with loss, it's a very difficult, not just physical but emotional thing to go through. And my heart goes out to you, to your family, whoever experienced loss over the holidays, or if you had a hard time going through the holidays. Some of you wrote, and that was what you guys were going through, and hopefully what I said helped. I know some of you said it did, because I wasn't on air to bring another topic to talk and distract some of you. So I also realized that in as much as it's an educative, I try to make sure that what I'm doing is educative and fun. I realized that it's also an escape for some of us for what is going out here in the world with COVID, loss, and just people losing jobs. And I mean, some of your stories are really, really very touching and inspiring as well. Some of you went through a tough time and you're making it, and some of you are still struggling. I don't want to say some of you, some of us, because I also, and I also have loved ones and myself where things haven't been the same since COVID, right? It's been a tough time since 2019. So we just need to keep trying, and if this is an escape for all of us, then I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be doing this. We are so happy to be doing this. Again, let's just be each other's keeper. Let's love one another. Let's encourage one another. Let's listen to people. Let's encourage people to come out of their shells and just share what they have to share with the world. Time is too short, guys. It looks like it's a lot, but it's really very short. I just wanted to say that. And yes, I'm going to be posting the 2 winners. Like I said, those of you who kept in touch and subscribed to all our social media platforms, I picked 2 lucky winners, and we're going to be posting those on our social platforms and letting them know what they won. And I'm going to be doing this in collaboration with Lyris Glam. So the winners are going to get something special from Lyris Glam. She pretty much tries to bring the beauty that is within, right? So I'm going to post that on social media. You guys will win some special goodies from Lyris Glam. You can always go check her out. She's on Instagram, Facebook, and her website, lyrisglam.com. All right, now getting into our very first topic for this season. This season pretty much is going to be exploring those things that a lot of a lot of you had questions about. I received a lot of questions about these things. So I did do a lot of research on them, and that's what we're going to be doing this season. But for our very first topic, we're going to be talking about the unique African wedding cultures. And this is just going to be some, because there are a lot. And I know after this, I'm going to get even more, right? But I just wanted to talk about weddings because a lot of people were getting married. You went on social media over the holidays. There were a lot of African weddings and people making it traditional and things like that. And I thought it would be a good topic because people were talking about it, posting it, and a lot of non-Africans were asking questions about it too. So we thought it would be a great topic to kickstart season 2. Now, first, I'm going to be talking about how we Africans generally look at weddings. In most African countries, wedding is not just two people. It signifies not only the unity between a man and a woman, but also coming together of two different families. Sometimes different families, different clans, villages, and sometimes even different tribes, right? So weddings it's not just festivity, and it's just not marriage. It's like a bridge. It's like bridging gaps between cultures, I would say sometimes, and loving another family, like one family falling in love with another, or not falling in love, or coming together to love each other, if that makes sense. The man and woman fall in love, but the families come together and they love each other, and it becomes something where that is my extended family, right? That's how we Africans tend to look at weddings. And because of this, that's why weddings are very sacred culturally in most African countries. It's almost like each family has to investigate the other family because we believe in marrying forever. So if we accept this family, we become family forever. Sometimes even if man and woman separate, that family they still have family ties, right? So before both families intermarry and become one, they always have to investigate what family they are adopting, if that kind of makes sense. Hopefully it does. But most often they would send someone to go check on the bride's family, kind of like a background check, right? They would do a background check. That's the best way I can describe it, is each family does a background check on the other family, and they make sure that, it's genuine, it's in love, it's in respect, the upbringing is right, like I said, a background thorough check through. And then when they do that, then that's also part of a traditional culture that most Africans would do for weddings, but most Africans would do for weddings. So that is also part of the process to marry somebody, right? Okay. And then there is usually what some countries will call knock door, some countries will call introduction, like Nigeria. Knock door, I know we have that in Cameroon, Ghana. It's almost like an arrangement, letting the bride's family know about the intentions of the groom. So knock door, the groom together with his family on a pre-arranged visit. Obviously, they usually tell the other family they're coming. They knock on the door of the bride's house, right, to announce their intentions and prospects of joining both families, right? That's pretty much what knock door is. So when they go for knock door, and they would say, most times people attribute knock door to like an engagement, but it's pretty much like an engagement to the family, not just the girl, because at that point, the girl must have already known, right? The guy must have already proposed to the girl. The girl knows that the guy is coming, but that is more like proposing to the family of the bride. The groom's family goes to propose to the girl's family, right? And make their intentions known and stuff like that. So that's kind of like pre-wedding, So that's one thing that some African countries would do. And then there is also something I want to touch on. In our African culture and society, there is what we call civil weddings, white weddings, and traditional weddings. So traditional weddings is where we have all these customs and traditions and that we need to follow, like the knock door and doing background checks, right? That's all traditional. And then you have the civil ceremonies. Civil ceremonies are mostly court. So if you just go to do court, they'll say you did a civil wedding. That means you just went and you did a court wedding and then maybe a reception later or not. It's all up to you. And then you have white weddings. White weddings is mostly the westernized form of wedding. That's where the white dress, the ball gowns, and church wedding and reception, all of that is mostly called white weddings, church weddings. So you have the civil, which is the court, the church, which we call white weddings, and then we have the traditional. So pretty much here, I'm more or less concentrating on the traditional because that's what is unique within the African culture, right? Within the African people. Now, most often there is every African culture, most that I spoke to anyways, have a ceremony that would be presented in one way or the other, but the bride always has with her bridesmaids and maybe older aunties and sisters of the family, right? Where the women would don her up, pretty her up, and things like that. And in some cultures, you have the henna application. Henna is that reddish powder from dry henna bush, and it's the Berbers usually do this in northern Africa, and they usually call it siala. If I'm saying it right, forgive me if I'm not, but if I'm saying it right, Northern Africans do this a lot. But I know a lot of East Africans, like my Kenyan friend was talking about it, and I know Northern Cameroon and Northern Nigeria, they also do that as well. I'm pretty sure it's the same for Ghana, where they would have the henna, they'll mix the henna, ground bush, right? They mix it into a paste and they will use it to decorate their hands and feet. Like draw pretty paintings that signify different things depending on what culture it is. It can be blessings, fertility, making her pretty because it's her special day and stuff like that. You have henna practices. You also have the money spraying thing, which is very popular now. It's come into circular culture, where even I've seen Americans, Europeans like doing it suddenly, where they spray money on the bride and the groom on their wedding day. And doing research, I realized that the Yorubas from Nigeria, this is actually something that is cultural to them, right? When they're spraying it, it's a form of spraying out blessings to the bride and groom, to the new couple. So it has like a significant cultural meaning to it, right? Also, like from Cameroon, a lot of cultures, including a lot of villages, including my tribe, where my dad is from, and my mom from Cameroon, we have where they would apply sometimes maybe palm oil on the bride, right? And sometimes the groom, I've seen that, where they will apply the palm oil. It's a sacred ceremony, to bless them, with fertility, with financial, blessings and things like that. So pretty much across that continent, there must be ceremonies where the women would bless the young bride, where the family would bless the couple, right? And you have situations where the bride is educated on how to take care of her husband. Husbands are have discussions on what to do or what to expect out of marriage and things like that. So we do, I guess the Western world, we will call it marriage counseling, but for us, we always have some traditional aspect to it. We always have a cultural piece to add to it, right? There must be some physical thing to make the significance just that unique and special, because we're Africans, we just do that. One other thing that I also wanted to touch on was dowry payment. So most often when they go for these introductions and knock doors, remember I said that was when the family of the groom goes to visit the family of the bride. So when that happens, most often there is discussion of dowries, which some people still to date call it bride price, right? It's not necessarily selling of your daughter, but it's trying to say you raised, because a woman signifies the future, because she's going to have kids and babies, right? So the dowry is not necessarily buying someone. It's more or less like, I'm paying you for taking care of my future. These are future wife and future grandkids, future, children and stuff. So that's the significance of a dowry. So when I ask questions, that's why most times it doesn't have fixed prices. But most often people confuse bride price, because they say bride price, to meaning that it's cash. No, in most cultures it's not cash. You have items that they will give you. So Nigerians and other countries, Cameroon, Ghana, they have a situation where they'll give you a list. Maybe a list. On the list they'll tell you maybe you need to bring yams, you need to bring kola nuts, you need to bring palm wine, you need to bring oil. That's oil that is very prominent within that region, like palm oil or whatever. I know for us, if they say oil, it's mostly palm oil. Pieces of African fabric, that's for the women, that's for the mother and the women of the family. So this list is often given to the groom, right? So the groom has to go, so they give it to his family most often during that knock door ceremony, and then when he goes, right, then he brings it. You see, he's going to eventually bring those things. So for some people it happens during the knock door. Some people it happens before the knock door, right? Before. I'm using knock door doesn't mean in every country it's called that. That's how it's called in my country, and that's why I'm using that word. But for some people, the inquiry of the dowry is done before the knock door. So on the knock door they do that. But pretty much when the dowry is given to the bride's family, from that point in our culture, most African culture, you are already married. The moment the dowry has been taken care of, if he has brought everything, sometimes it includes livestock, exchange of livestock. It can be cows, it could be chicken, goats, whatever. When there is this exchange from the groom's family to the bride, that's a dowry payment, right? For some people it's livestock, for some people it's food items, or some people it's a mixture, and sometimes cash is also a part of the list, right? So all of these things, I'm just trying to say, is unique for each country, each tribe within the country, each village within some of those tribes in the country. You have unique things, right? You have things that is only done there. So if you are foreign and you want to ask, if you're so curious, you want to ask an African from any African country, ask them what their traditional rites are when trying to get a bride, right? You would realize it's different from person to person, because we are coming from different tribes and ethnicities and just different culture. It's a lot, but I thought these things were enough to touch on it, because I had a lot of questions. When people were off, it was the holidays, a lot of weddings were going on, and so there was a lot of talk about traditional weddings, talk about weddings, or did you see this? So is this non-Africans? Is this Nigeria? And I'm like, I know Nigeria, it's huge, so everything is mostly seen from that perspective, but no. Some they show me and I'm like, no, this is not Nigerian. This is from Ghana or Zimbabwe or something. And if you're attending a wedding, sometimes when you're attending the white wedding, the traditional already took place. Maybe you just didn't attend it because maybe, I don't know. It's some of these traditional weddings are very secret. So sometimes the most open would be the white wedding, where anybody can attend. But some of these weddings, wedding ceremonies and traditions are done in private. And some of them are done only at night. There's some cultures that do it only at night. They don't do it during the day. Like I know for us, some cultures in Cameroon, just at night, you would have them, and sometimes they would have to walk the bride to the groom's place of residence, right? And that walk is accompanied with singing, it's accompanied with libations, with the pour of money and blessings and all of that, all the way to the bride's house, to the groom's house. That's another traditional piece when you're talking about traditional weddings and cultures and practices across the continent. But I thought I should highlight on this. Hopefully it answered a lot of those questions, because a lot of you guys, since it was the holidays, I just told you I would do it on the podcast, right? I tried to say a little bit, but I was like, I was going to do it on the podcast. So hopefully this is enough information, and let me know if you have more questions or you have something to add, because I know definitely you guys will have more to add. So let us know. I can include that for the next episode, but I will see you guys for the next episode. We're already working on that, so it's going to be fun again. And like I said, on our social platforms, we are going to announce the 2 lucky winners for our giveaway, right? I said I was going to announce that on the 31st episode of season 2. And talking about social media, now we have a YouTube. I know I said that in the end of season 1, and I said you should subscribe, and that was one of the criteria for picking the winners. So we are going to be dropping our very first video on YouTube, and I'm going to have none other than my sister friend Winnie. We're going to do that together. And some of you were already I threw out a question what you guys thought we should do for our very first video on YouTube, and some of you already brought in your suggestions, and we are taking those into account. And I will also announce when that video will be coming up on social media. So if you want to be informed and up to date, you have to follow African Teapot on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and follow us on Facebook. And now on Facebook, you can also listen to the podcast. You don't need Spotify or Apple. You don't need to download anything. You just go to African Teapot page on Facebook, and everything I've ever said on the podcast is there. I've put up everything there. So and you can comment as well. Just like this episode, you can comment at the bottom, and I'm going to reply to all of your comments and your questions. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. Thank you for sticking by with us throughout this journey, and see you guys next time for our next episode. Thank you for listening, and hope you join me for the next episode. You can always reach us via email at africanteapot@gmail.com, and follow us on Instagram at African_teapot.